Hello and welcome to Reginald. I can't do a Swedish accent. I just can't do it. I'm terrible. Hi guys, welcome to Reginaldesq. I'm Underhook, and this is my review in a non-Swedish accent of the STRV S1. So is it any good? Yes, it is. It is a good tank destroyer. Is it ruined by the current matchmaker? Not really. It is worse off under the current matchmaker, but it's not ruined like a lot of the heavily armoured tanks are. This tank has 30 mils of armour, and because of the angling, it will bounce 90 millimeters or below basically automatically, any shots coming in frontally. Because of that, if you're facing tier 9s and tier 10s, even the medium tanks and some of the light tanks have bigger guns than that and will pretty much auto pen you rather than auto bounce. They'll auto penetrate you because they'll overmatch your armor. So yes, that's bad, being bottom tier, which you are most of the time with current matchmaker. So it's probably not doing as well as it used to, this tank. However, this tank doesn't really rely on its armor. The armor is really only there to get you out of a tight spot. Really, it relies on camouflage. The camouflage, you are a bit worse off because tier 10s can see further and are more likely to spot the tank, but it's not as badly off as a lot of other tanks. So it's still probably a worthwhile investment if you like the Swedish line tank destroyers and you want something to train your crews, or you just can't be bothered doing the Swedish line but you want to try out one of these siege mode tanks. They are unique. I have reviewed the Icarus 03, so if you want to have a look at that, you can, because that is the non-premium counterpart of this tank. The Icarus 03, the non-premium, doesn't have as good a armor. It only has 20 mils of armor, so any guns above a 60 mil caliber will auto pen the Icarus 03, which this particular one here needs to be over a 90 mil gun to penetrate. So it's a big advantage. When you get to the tier 9 version of the tank, it's got 40 mils of armor, so you have to be over 120 mils, like 122 mils or something like that. I am ably assisted in this review by Icarus, who is a long-time subscriber to the channel, has put in replays before. He plays a fantastic game in this tank and does some very smart things as well. It's a great game. This tank, as I said, does rely on camouflage. Now, this particular one, the Premium STRV, is not actually as well camouflaged as the Udes. The Udes is the most well camouflaged tier 8 tank destroyer. However, this one is the second best, so it is still well camouflaged. Its gun, in my opinion, is better than the Udes in that it has a higher rate of fire, although on paper it's not quite as accurate, although I think it probably actually is as accurate. I think they just put that on paper there so they could say, see, it's not overpowered compared to the non-premium. What else can we tell you about this tank? It doesn't move as quickly as the Udes. It's not as fast. The Udes is faster. But like I said, I think the gun is better on this one and the armor is better on this one. So with that said, let's get and have a look at it. Icarus is running a camouflage net and binoculars. So I'm not sure what else he's running. So it could be a gun rammer, could be events, I'm not sure. And I don't really know about his crew, but I would suggest they are 100% trained, but other than that I don't really know. So we'll have a look at a quick tank comparison and then we'll get into the review. We are on the Tanks GG website and I'm just going to compare the STRV1 to the Udes. If you want to see all the tank destroyers compared, you can watch the Udes 03 review if you like. So DPM is higher, almost 300 higher than the Udes, and that's because the gun is identical but fires faster. So 288 millimeters of penetration is excellent for a tier 8 tank and does 390 damage, which is very, very nice. It has a 5.88 rate of fire, which means it fires reloads in 10.2 seconds, whereas the Udes takes 11.70 seconds to load. Pay to win! It probably is pay to win, this tank actually. The shell velocity is extremely high, 1450, which is higher than the Udes at 1385. Pay to win! So yes, it does. It's great for hitting moving tanks, although it doesn't have a turret, so it's a little bit hard to aim. But yeah, it's very good at hitting moving targets. Ammo capacity is 50 and it's 40 on the Udes 03. Pay to win! Well, actually, it's not really. You probably won't use that much ammo anyway. Aim time is 3 seconds, which is fairly long, so a gun laying drive would be a good thing. Maybe Icarus is got a gun laying drive fitted, I'm not sure, but a gun laying drive would be a good idea to speed up that aim time. 3 seconds for such a powerful gun is actually pretty good, but really the faster you can aim this thing, the better, because you really have to move your tracks to adjust the gun, and you want to avoid doing that if you can. Dispersion is 0.4, which is pretty bad, and it's 0.35 on the UDS-03, which is pretty good. However, watching this particular gameplay, the gun looks to be very accurate indeed. So I think that is just put there so that you can't say it's overpowered, or it's overpowered compared to the standard tank. I think really the dispersion appears to be exactly the same to me anyway. Upon moving, it does disperse more, the gun, which doesn't really matter because when you're in siege mode, it doesn't count as moving. So it won't affect. It's only when you're not in siege mode that affects it, and really, considering the aim, it's not going to matter much. During track traverse, once again, it's a 0.1 dispersion, and it's twice as bad on the UDES at 0.2, but that probably shouldn't matter too much either, because I'm pretty sure in siege mode it doesn't count. I could be wrong, but I think in siege mode it doesn't count that dispersion. It's not much anyway, but it is double the premium tank. And the turret traverse, which is just the gun moving side to side, it doesn't have much movement. It's only 3 degrees either side on STRV, and it's only 2 degrees on the UDES. So it's only tiny anyway, but it's, once again, it's double the dispersion on the UDES. Upon firing though, the STRV disperses 18 and UDES only disperses 3, so much less dispersion. But by the time you've spent your 3 seconds aiming, it's probably not going to make any difference. And and you've also got the 10-second loading time, whatever it is, so it doesn't matter at all. Elevation is 20 degrees on UDES. It's only 1 degree on the STRV, so I didn't see the situation arise in this gameplay we're about to see, but that could be a problem for this tank, that elevation. It has 1 degree of gun depression. The UDES has 0, but bear in mind this is when, I think it's when it's not in siege mode. When it's in siege mode, these stats all change, and it will get more gun depression and more elevation, I'm pretty sure. Forward speed of 50 is not slow. It's slow compared to the UDES though, which is 70. So this is where the premium tank suffers compared to non-premium. It's just not as fast or maneuverable. So 50 kilometers an hour though is still fast enough to relocate and do some emergency work, which we will see Icarus do in this gameplay. Reverse speed of 45 is incredibly fast, not as fast as the UDES at 50 though, but it is really good. When you're not in siege mode, you can reverse really quickly. Now, when you are in siege mode, the tank is incredibly slow, like it does, same as UDES. They only do about 3 kilometers per hour or something in siege mode. But there is a big advantage when they're in siege mode. If you have camouflage net and binoculars fitted, they do not turn off when you rotate the tank. Even though your tracks are moving, it doesn't count as movement when you're in siege mode, and even if you're backing up or moving forwards, it doesn't count as movement, and your binoculars and your camouflage net will stay active, and that's a big advantage of this tank because it already has great camouflage anyway. Moving right along, the UDES is much heavier. So this is a lighter tank, and only 16 tons can get smashed if it gets rammed. Don't bother ramming anybody else, you'll probably blow yourself up. Terrain resistances are not bad, but not as good as the UDES. So it's definitely not as maneuverable as the UDES. Hull armor is 30 mils all around compared to 20 mils on the UDES, and even though it's only 10 mils and you say 30 mils is useless, it's actually very, very good armor. When this thing's top tier, a lot of tanks simply can't penetrate it because of the angling. It has 1,000 hit points, which is exactly the same, which is not a lot, but that's what you get for being a tank destroyer. Engine health is a bit stronger. Track health is a bit weaker. View range of 350 meters is the same. With binoculars fitted, these things can spot for themselves in a pinch. Radio range 850 is fantastic, and they both have identical radio range. They also both have a very low chance of catching fire, only 10%. Moving right along to the armor. So, okay, it's only got 30 millimeters of armor here. And I have this set up so the gun I'm using is the gun off the UDES, which is a 105mm gun. Because it's a 105mm gun, you can see here we've got a 100% chance of penetrating. In other words, we are overmatching this 30 mils of armor, and it can't stop us. The cupola is very weak at 15 mils. Now, if I had a 90 mil gun fitted or anything below 90 mil, it would be an auto bounce. It would be ricochet. In fact, if I go onto the blue area here, see how it says 0% chance of penetrating, even though what it is here, I've got here 30 mils of spaced armor, over 20 mils of spaced armor, over 20 mils of spaced armor, over 20 mils of spaced armor, for a total of effective armor of 200. Don't shoot at the sides. Make sure you shoot towards the middle area of this tank when you're shooting at it. And these blue areas here, which are just protecting the lower part and the tracks a little bit here, really do tend to absorb shots as well. Now, at the moment, it's not in siege mode. When it's in siege mode, it tilts up a little bit like this, and shooting down these blue areas here is much harder to penetrate. So try and avoid those areas, and definitely avoid the sides of this tank. Always shoot towards the middle of the UDES or any of this whole line of tanks. So yeah, 30 millimeters, you will auto pen if you have a bigger than 90 mil gun, but you will basically, it's pretty similar to here, you will basically auto bounce if you have a greater than this gun. Also, I think this might be using APCR ammunition. It is using APCR, so spaced armor will pretty much automatically absorb those shots as well from APCR ammunition. So I think that's what's happening on the sides here, but you will bounce standard rounds a lot more on the sides as well. On the side, they're pretty much really easy to pen on the side because they don't have the angling, and you can pen these sides on, and any tank can pen you on the sides or the rear fairly easily. So make sure if you are trying to tank a shot that you face the tank. The sides are pretty much useless. Just going to have a quick look at the camouflage. So for those of you interested, this is wotinfo.net. So worldoftanksinfo.net is the site, and it has camouflage values for the tank. So you can see I've got all the tier 8 tank destroyers. You can see the SU-101 has 20, which is pretty darn good. Now the green bar is for tanks that are stationary, the orange bar is for tanks that are moving, and the red bar is when you fire your gun. So when you fire your gun, 4.47 is pretty bad camouflage. That's about the camouflage that a big heavy tank has when it's stationary. So moving right along here, we get down and we can see that here we go. Look at the RHM has pretty good camouflage, 22 and 13 when it's moving. So that's a well camouflaged tank destroyer. The Conan Panzer here has 23 as well, pretty darn good. But we get here, look at the UDES. The UDES 03 has 26, and that is the most of any tier 8 tank destroyer. I think even a lot of scout tanks have about that, have about the 26 mark, or sometimes even less. So it's great camouflage. However, it doesn't maintain the camouflage whilst moving like scout tanks do. It drops down to 15.7, but that's still not bad camouflage. And when the gun fires, it goes to 5.87. Now, the Strv S1 isn't as good, but is the second best tank at this tier at 2405, 14.2 when moving, and when it fires the gun. Now, when you fire the gun, that camouflage will most of the time get you spotted, especially if there are higher tier tanks within viewing range of you, but you can often adjust. Now, when you are moving your tank in siege mode, it counts as being stationary. That's the advantage of siege mode. Now, when it takes 2 seconds to get into siege mode and 2 seconds to get out of siege mode, so it is a bummer if you do get spotted because it takes you a long time to run away, but it is a big advantage. So anyway, just thought we'd check out the camouflage. Alright, so it's a tier 9 game, and our hero Icarus 007 is in the Strv S1. He's actually in a clan. He's in the EXC clan. Oh, hang on, I'll get Klaus a call. Hi Klaus, how are you? Good, thanks mate. Can you do a shout out? EXC clan. Thanks mate. Shout out to you guys! Thanks Klaus. See you next time mate. Bye. So as you can see, the tank reverses really quickly and is able to get in position without having to turn the tank around and go forward, which is really likely because, as you just saw on the right there, that enemy Batchat got into position super fast. And if he was sitting out there, that could easily have spotted him. So it's really important to get in cover quick when you've got a tier 9 and tier 10 tanks flying around the map. Wow, how's that for a snapshot? This tank aims quickly, is accurate, Wow. So he's in siege mode. That little 1.3 you can see there near the gun, that means it takes 1.3 seconds, look at that shot, to get out of siege mode. When he's out of siege mode, you'll see there's a little 2 there, and that means it takes 2 seconds to get into siege mode. Now, I'm pretty sure on the UDES, it takes 2 seconds to get into and 2 seconds to get out of siege mode as well. Pay to win. Sorry, I've got like Tourette syndrome. Sometimes I just say things. Oh, yes! Beautiful shot. Oh, he's been spotted. Oh, he's taking a big risk here. He wanted to get that SP1C shot and he didn't move even though he was spotted. There is artillery on the enemy team. There is a GW Panther, which is a pretty good tank destroyer. I reviewed that recently. It's very good. So he took a big risk there, because if I'm in artillery, whenever I see one of these Swedish tank destroyers, I like to smash it because I know how thin the armor is and how useless they are against HE. HE is one of the ways you can counter these tanks. If you have a less than 90mm gun, there's no way you can pen the front, but if you use HE, you can do a fair amount of damage to them because the armor's pretty thin. Now, the enemy has started capping, and I know, because Icarus plays very similar to me in some ways, I know he's probably feeling the pressure right now of, hell, I need to do something about cap. But he's probably looked at the map and seen he's got heavy tanks there and a tank destroyer there. He's probably thinking, well, it's their job to reset cap. I've got to concentrate on his flank, because if these guys make it through on his flank, if they beat us on his flank, Icarus is going to die, and the whole team's going to be stuffed. Here we go. Progetto there gets a lovely shot into that Progetto. Very good tanks they seem to be, those Progettos as well. Oh, can he get this shot? He was aiming a little low there for my liking. It missed, but admittedly he probably didn't want to risk readjusting aim there, and unfortunately missed that shot. They got rid of the SP1C, so that's good news. The enemy is still capping, 40% cap, so a bit of pressure coming on now. 1500 damage already, that we know of. Excellent. So when this tank is in siege mode, the back of the tank lifts up and the front dips down a little bit. So the front plate becomes much harder to pen. Now, when I was a young kid, in the 70s, I used to build model aeroplanes, you know, World War II planes and all that sort of stuff, and some World War I biplanes, you know, just the plastic model kits you used to be able to get. He's looking to see if he can do something about cap now, because it's 65% cap. He's feeling the pressure, but he doesn't have a shot. Even though this tank's behind a building, there's no way he can hit it, and the guy's too smart to allow himself to be exposed. Tank destroys. Oh, TVP. Nice shot. So yeah, I used to build models of aeroplanes. Oh, he's been spotted. He goes out of siege mode here now, and he is moving back as quickly as he can to get behind this rock. He blocks the shot from the TVP. So I will suggest that that TVP either has a 90mm gun on it, or it hit the side parts where we saw all the space stuff. Gets a nice hit into that Progetto there and doesn't get spotted while he does it, because I think he was in siege mode when he fired the shot. So very clever he is. When he spotted there, he moved, which is the thing you've got to do in this tank. You've got to learn when you spotted to get the hell out of the way really quick. He's been a bit lucky that artillery hasn't focused on him. Artillery probably has other things to worry about. Can we finish this TVP? So yeah, anyway, I also built some models of toy tanks. I think there's a rock there, and he needs to aim a little higher here. I think there it is. There it is. Lovely shot. So you can see the accuracy of this gun is excellent. 0.4. Ha! 0.4. Yeah, right. Yeah, so I built a model of this tank. Now, it was called, and written on the box, it said S-Tank. I don't know if the S was for Swedish, or this is called the S1, so it probably was called the S-Tank at the time. So, now, we noticed it was the only model tank we had that didn't have a turret, and I didn't even know what a tank destroyer was when I was a kid. So my brothers and I decided that the reason it was called the S tank was because it didn't have a turret. So of course it stank. Yeah. That was what we thought. Still can't get a shot on these guys on cap, but his team has reset cap, so that's the main thing. And so the emergency is off for now. It is pretty close. The other team, I think, has 1 extra tank. They've got 7 and we have 6. So they're 1 tank up. Both teams still have an arty in play. They have 1 tier 9 left and we also have 1 tier 9 left. So it's a pretty close run game. Now, Icarus has done 2,400 damage here, so he's had a large part in the game. Oh, this Jagdpanther's made a mistake. There he goes. Gets a good hit into him, and is not spotted because tank destroyers can't see very well, and the Comet was not in a position to spot him at the time. Comet being a tier 7 medium tank. I think it's tier 7. Yep. British medium tank. Now, I just looked at him and thought, oh, his bum's sticking out a little bit there. He could get spotted by the tank destroyer if it gets close enough. And Icarus has a look at the side and then moves his tank forward a little bit so he can't get spotted. That's what I mean by Icarus thinks similarly to myself. So when I did my UDES review, somebody put a comment, I don't know if it was a subscriber or somebody who watched the replay, but said that I was letting my team down by having a camouflage net because I should have had a gun rammer to increase my DPS. So I was letting my team down by not having high enough DPS. I'd say he will be feeling the pressure now to go and reset cap because enemy is now capping. He's moving further forward to see if he can get a shot here. We have 3 tanks left. The enemy has 6 tanks left, folks. This is do or die stuff. The Jagdpanther makes a big mistake by coming out, but his tracks absorb the shot. But watch how fast this reload is. Lovely, lovely shot. Now that Jagdpanther, if he has a brain in his head, will stay behind the rock because the UDES will rip him to pieces. He checks out there to see if he's got a shot, but he sees the Jagdpanther might be going to do something silly. And he does. The Jagdpanther just couldn't resist nailing artillery before somebody else got artillery and pays the price for it. So now it's 2 tanks to 5. 58, 59% capped. What can we do here? So whatever I was just talking about, I lost my train of thought because this game's just so exciting. 70% capped. The enemy tier 8 premium tank, the THC, one of the reward tanks for doing all the missions, makes a fatal mistake, as does this Progetto. Boom. So yeah, the THC did not keep himself protected from the tank destroyers on the hill. Don't know if he was chasing a shot or what he was doing, but allowed Icarus to reset him. So the other tank is still capping, so it resets some of the points. Well, it didn't reset him, it killed him and reset some of the cap points. 58% capped. So Icarus decides now he's going to have to do something. It's still 2 tanks to 3, so they've evened it up. This back chat is, I would assume, he's a one-shot kill, so I think he's waiting for the very last moment before moving in. Now, the Comet did penetrate, so I don't think the Comet's... Hasn't the Comet got a 90mm or less? So the Comet used APCR. Now, I think APCR... I think overcomes angling, doesn't it? I think APCR overcomes the angling of the armor, and so it penetrated it. Something like that, I think. It's one of the reasons also why that ammunition is pay to win. It's just yeah. This guy moves. Now, I don't know about you, but I'd say that tank was. That guy in the other tank, I bet you he's saying, I was behind the building and I got shot through a building. Even on Icarus's screen, he was pretty much gone. But I think World of Tanks has this special thing where it compensates for lag a little bit. Has like a lag compensator built into the programming. And sometimes it goes a little bit wrong. And instead of saying, oh, look, when you shot him, he was really there, but because of server lag, he moved out of the way, but really he was there. Sometimes it goes a little bit too far, And it says, oh yeah, he was really there, but really he wasn't there. Anyway. Now, the back chat has basically said, get Top Gun, buddy. Very nice of the back chat. He's spotted for him and allowed him to get... I think he recognised that he played a fantastic game and allowed him to get Top Gun. Very nice of him. Let's have a look at the stats. What a game. It was a mastery game in the tank. He got the Defender Medal, High Caliber, Tank Sniper, and Top Gun. Wow. So, yeah. Great game. Now, I apologise if my commentary was all over the place and I kept losing my train of thought. It's because I'm a professional. I am just so professional at doing these that, you know, I deliberately wander and forget my train of thought. I do that on purpose. Okay, yeah. So yeah, apologies for that. But it was a very exciting game. I think that's part of the reason the game kept grabbing my attention. So let's have a look at the next screen. And of course, he finished on top for his team for damage and also experience. 1,333 XP, which is a lot of XP, and 4,990 damage. And when you consider you hardly really had to move until the end, it's pretty good. Tank does rely heavily on camouflage, though, and if you do get spotted or end up in a bad spot, or there are some maps too where this tank just doesn't work, but when you get in a good spot, it's awesome. So 17 shots fired, 16 of them hit, 0.4 accuracy. No way, this tank is far more accurate than that would indicate. 16 hit, 14 penetration, so that 288 mils of penetration, very, very good. 4,990 damage, most of it at long range. He did move when he needed to move though, and really did. He won the game pretty much for his team, as well as that bat chat that helped out as well. A lot. 240 blocked from that TVP, 9 shells, 9 tanks hit, 6 destroyed, 100 base defense points, so he saved the game there by resetting cap with the help of the bat chat. 93,000 income, 61,000 profit. That is a lot, but considering, you know, it was a mastery game, ammunition cost 30,000. It's profitable, but really it's not that great, I don't think, for a premium tank. It's all right. So, yeah, but great game. Thank you very much to Icarus 007 for supplying the game, and I'm sure you'll agree it was a lot of fun. Thank you for watching my review of the Strv S1. Hope you liked it, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe to Reginaldesq and have fun.